Welcome to Objections with Stan Willis. I'm Nathan Schoner. Oh, I'm not Nathan Schoner. Thank God. Sitting next to me is another not Nathan Schoner, Stan Willis.
I'm not Johnny Carson.
Can I just point out that Johnny Carson's last show by itself does more ratings than any other late night shows combined?
He was a funny guy.
He was the king of late night.
He was the funny guy.
And now we have Jimmy Kimmel.
He's not necessarily that funny of a guy.
Well, let's talk about things that are funny and hateful. How many times is Trump he's almost in the noose, right? So as we're saying it now, to be fair, we're recording this before any possible arraignment or...
Well, they're trying to get an indictment. They're before the grand jury now.
Okay, so let's talk about this.
And the thing that I saw is he's having trouble getting the grand jury convinced, which is a pretty low bar. So,
well, let's discuss the issue with this. Is you're trying to go off testimony from 2018 that has already been found that what they're trying to indict Trump on is paying somebody in. I don't know if you read. I'm sure you read.
Yeah, it's they
that he recorded the expense as something else.
Right.
That's what they want to go after him for, which is such a low-level thing. The problem with that is already in the testimony that it was made up in 2018 anyway, but any money that did go through is from Cohen, the attorney, who he paid Stormy Daniels. So there's still no I don't understand why they think Trump would make such a stupid mistake like that. The guy who's had to deal with the mafia his entire life is going to get caught on this. This seems like an Al Capone type thing. We can't get him on killing anybody, but we can get him on tax evasion.
Well, all the hits in Washington are like that, right? I mean,
we can never catch anybody in this country.
Well, but if so Donald Trump was a
great man.
No,
oh, I didn't know you were.
He was a land mogul. Real estate mogul in the city of New York.
In the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
Doing all kinds of deals. Did I mention in the city of New York?
Yeah.
Where he repeatedly said publicly, "Oh, I'm mobbed up."
Yes.
So, that there are things that may not be 100% above board that happened in there, right? It has to be.
But I don't think he hides from that.
But here's the thing. In Washington, they can't go after Trump for any of those things because they're all doing the same things.
Right.
So you don't see anybody getting convicted of insider trading when they're a politician because they're all insider trading. Right. You don't see anybody convicted of taking bribes or any of this kind of stuff because they're all in somebody's pocket.
Right.
So what do? They go after Russian collusion. Why is it? Because none of them have done that.
Right.
You're picking. So what they're. I mean, that's the whole documents thing. But
again,
it's low hanging fruit. It's easy to go after, and they're not all guilty of it.
But we are two experts in the law. Would that be fair to say?
Sure.
Okay.
You want to be an expert in the law? You go right ahead.
So when I see that the DA who got $1 million backed by George Soros, I don't think that this is to ever get a conviction. I think this is to get video and photos of Trump having to walk into a courthouse with cops walking him in and walking him out.
Yeah, totally.
It is not about putting him in jail. It is about having that Kodak moment where you, during the advertising political window, you're running commercials showing that over and over again.
This is totally about trying to keep Trump from running, or if he does run, trying to have something to hold against him. It's totally what it's about. The thing is that I think if they get what they want, if what they want is what you said, I think if they get that, I think that Trump will use that to his advantage.
Absolutely.
I think that
you're making him a martyr.
Well, right. I mean, you're giving him more election talking points.
Right.
It would be better if everybody just shut up and quit talking about him. I mean, if you have control of the entire media, Trump's entire campaign is based upon a grassroots social media kind of publicity kind of thing.
His Q score.
Right. It's
Do I know the name?
It's all about that. That's what his whole campaign is. So if everybody just stopped talking about him, he'd probably lose by a lot because everybody'd forget about him.
What's funny is when I was a kid growing up, Jimmy Carter, the only thing I knew about him was he was a peanut farmer. That was it. I couldn't tell you what it, because I was a kid. Every kid's aware of Donald Trump. Everything that they allegedly that he did, everything that he has done, all that other stuff, good, bad, or indifferent. So when you're, the other thing I think is funny is now the term MAGA, that his campaign slogan is being tweeted by they're calling them MAGA Republicans.
Right.
You couldn't be doing him more of a favor. Rather than just saying Republican, you're talking about them, and then at the same time you're persecuting this guy. You're making it look like, I'm not saying any of these things are baseless. I'm saying you're making it look like a witch hunt, and you're making him look like he's innocent because he's beating all of these charges.
Right. So you're doing exactly the opposite of what you want to accomplish, which is kind of get him out of the limelight. The best thing to do would be to quit covering him.
But I think so.
But the problem is that the networks, except for Fox, the networks all have a problem because the only time they get ratings is when they're covering Trump.
Right.
So they either have to give up the ratings and give up the talking about Trump, or get some ratings and talk about Trump. But the more they talk about Trump, the more publicity he had. Right. And Trump's running on the, he's a media guy anyway. I mean, he's one of these kind of. He's
the only land developer that you actually know their name.
Right. But he had that show. He's got this kind of bigger than life persona. That
rap stars have always used his name in songs.
Right.
For 20, 30 years.
So he's running on the premise that, most stars run on or live on, which is all publicity is good publicity, right? So whether I'm getting shot, photoshopped, or
I was like,
whether
I'm getting going with that?
whether I'm getting a picture taken coming out of a bar drunk with somebody who's not my spouse, or
you would get shot for that,
or whether I'm on the red carpet, publicity is publicity, right? And they don't care,
right? So
that's why you don't have more lawsuits against the paparazzi, because they don't care.
Right.
They want the publicity. Well, that's the world Trump is living in, and he's just living for the publicity.
I think he loves this.
Oh, I'm sure he does,
because he's in everybody's head. Even if you love him or you hate him,
he loves the fact that we're talking about him and we don't like him.
Well, he loves
doesn't
his
care
show.
About that.
That's the problem. He's a big fan of this.
He's one of our 8
Broad
people.
Street Radio.
Yeah, he's one of our 8 people that follow us. And
8. When did you double that number? What I thought was really funny is
zeros on top of each
well, as the I like that you did that with your hands for the people that are listening. He literally made an 8. I can only say that was adorable.
Well, that's me.
So as the case is starting to fall apart in New York, Georgia wants to charge him with election interference.
Yeah.
So again, it's going every time. You're not going to get him. You're not going to get him.
Even if they do, they're not going to be able to confine him.
Right. So he's still going to go back home.
And I'm not sure any of this stuff rises to the level that would make him ineligible to serve as president.
It doesn't. There's no law. So unless you murdered somebody, which even that, right. I kind of, because I was thinking, does a charge mean you can't run? So then I look through and it's like, no, there's nothing that says that. So O.J. Simpson could run for president if he could raise the capital, right?
He may, actually.
I would vote for him.
There's a third party that's on.
If I was O.J.,
three or four states now.
O.J. Simpson takes no shit. You know what I mean? Yeah. That would be the slogan. He doesn't care. Over sunglasses, he doesn't care. But I don't understand. Here's how the media has always worked. It is going to cover for who it's supposed to cover for. So with vaccines, it's covering 70% of all the advertising dollars for television stations and NPR and all that is a Pfizer or Moderna. They are paying for it. So they're not going to cover that.
70%. Huh?
70. This is the real sad part. Okay.
Think they'd sponsor us?
Oh, I think they would, but we have to say, like, go out there and get jabbed up. Would you sell your soul to tell people to take that thing?
No, I would not.
I would. For
So
$8.
call Mike. Call Mike.
God bless.
Call Mike.
Yeah, call my agent.
Wait. Is there somebody over there?
It's young Mia Morris, the future of podcasting, sneezing in the corner and on her phone. So the other piece of this that what I was going to say is that the media is covering. The media has a Democratic or a Democrat bias, and it always has, other than Fox. But the issue,
I'm not sure Fox doesn't have a Democrat.
I'm not saying. Listen, I don't watch any of that shit. I watch or read independent people because if you don't have
That's
a dog,
kind of what I do.
Well, I have a friend, and we've discussed this before, that says CNN is the purveyor of truth. Jen Psaki was just on Stephen Colbert, and I only say that because no one watched it. But she was saying at MSNBC, we have a process. Nothing false gets on the air. And somebody had cut that and put Rachel Maddow saying, once you get the vaccine, it doesn't spread. You only need it twice, all this other stuff. There is no real news. There's
just propaganda.
Right. But in the propaganda playbook, they can't tout what Biden is doing that's positive, that looks good. Right? So they're only attacking the other side, saying, just don't vote for him. Well, if DeSantis gets in the race, I've given you this example before where it's like you're calling somebody by their last name over and over again, and you go, who's this? And they say their first name, and you go, oh, he must be all right. I haven't heard anything bad about him. I said a few weeks ago when we talked that I don't believe that DeSantis, I think he's doing a fine job in Florida. But that guy, any guy that goes to Harvard, Yale, MIT, all that, they're building bombs in their basement, okay?
Right.
Or they're running a state. He's now taking the other side of Trump. He's now for the Ukraine war, when before he wasn't. He's now saying that Trump shouldn't run all this other stuff. I find it hard to believe that that is not a politically motivated thing. And I also start to look at it and go, I'm not really sure that you're a Republican.
Well,
I think you're trying to play the single party game.
It's not even about that. I mean, personally, I think if I were running DeSantis, I don't think I would want to run for president.
I would not either.
I think that the kinds of things that he's been able to accomplish in Florida that are positive, I don't know that you can do that federally. I don't know that the president has as much effect on one state, on those things as the governor has in a particular state. So I'm not sure from his standpoint that he can be as successful as president as he has been in Florida, which may be why he's softening on some policies, because maybe he's now thinking about this from a more political game that he would have to play if he were to become president and want to have at least some positive effect. I mean, you're going to have to be much more tactful and political in that environment.
Much more down the line.
Right. So that's one thing that concerns me about Ron DeSantis. Another thing that kind of concerns me about DeSantis is, he's always presented as a hardcore conservative. And I think now he's trying to soften that and get back to a more middle of the road kind of thing. And I've always kind of been of the belief that we get better governance from the middle than we do from either end. And I'm not sure. I don't know that I'm not genuine. Sure I 100% believe it, I guess is what I'm saying.
I don't think it's genuine, the things. What I do think is you got two horses in the race on one side. To separate the two, because you could conflate the two and say they are very similar in what they're saying. I feel like if I just divert a little bit, so they're saying my name. But if those two are on the ticket together, Trump is going to win that outright. Because what is the difference between the two?
I think if Trump runs in the Republican side, Trump wins.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't want that, but I think that's what will happen. I would prefer that Trump not run. Personally, I would prefer that we get some people on the Republican side that present as more centrist. At one point, I kind of thought that DeSantis and Tulsi Gabbard would be a good ticket, but
See, I thought the other way. I thought Trump and Tulsi Gabbard balancing out.
But Tulsi Gabbard's kind of given me some pause by taking a job on Fox.
But don't you think that's okay? Let's talk about that strategy for a minute, because that's very confusing to me. When you're a contributor or being interviewed, once a week or twice a month or whatever, I think there's something to that.
Publicity, right?
Yeah, but it's your brand, right?
Right.
Here's what I think is a brilliant move on Fox's part and her part. If you had counter programming, and we used to have that, right? So you could have Meet the Press, and then you'd have a show that followed up with it, would have the other side of things.
Right.
Or Hannity and Combs, which is a very old show. Republican and Democrat discussing it. But again, you're bringing it up, and you're almost kind of like not having a debate, but it's more you're kind of unraveling this thing.
Right.
What throws me off is that doesn't make Tulsi Gabbard a Republican. It makes her a moderate. It is
Maybe.
She's in the middle of both.
Well, she's always been a moderate. That's one of the things I like.
Right, but I think what people say is, well, now she's a Republican. She's a traitor.
No, I don't think that makes her a traitor.
I'm saying the Democratic side.
What it makes me wonder is whether she's as idealistic as she presents. And I think it probably means that she's not as idealistic as she presents.
Well, I think there's a two-step process here. When she got out of the race and she didn't have a voice, she was doing a lot of videos with her phone,
right.
And putting those things out. Then she had a podcast, and then the podcast became guest spots on Fox to a show.
Right.
Now you're an entertainer. What do I want to say? You're a newshead, basically, right?
Well, right. I mean, you're.
But I think that takes her completely out of the race, because if Thomas Massey,
exactly, that's what I'm saying. That's
right.
I mean, we're saying the same thing. I mean, I think that this move is interesting, because I think it's basically her saying, "I don't want to do this anymore. I'm just going to go over here and make money."
Do you think that she saw too much?
Huh?
Do you think that she saw too much and she went, I don't want that life?
I'm not sure that. I think maybe she just got tired of it.
That's what I mean. Like,
yeah, I think she just got
see
tired
what
of
you'd
it.
have to do to get for. You said that to me before. Is that there are certain people that go to a certain point, and they see what it takes to do that, and you got to be a totally different person,
right? And I think that. You start out idealistic, and you want all these things, and you say, I'm not going to compromise this, I'm not going to compromise this. But I think in a political situation as corrupt as DC is, I think it's pretty hard to be effective and not compromise at some moral or ethical level.
You know what it is? You're a chimney sweep. You start the day and you're clean, but at the end of the day, to do your job, you're covered in dirt and soot.
Right.
And I think there are some people, like, I don't know much about Jim Jordan other than what I see.
Right.
But he's built for that. He's not built to be a president, vice president. He's built for those hearings.
You have to be the kind of person that has the ability to say, I'm willing to sacrifice this for this, because on a priority scale, this is more important. So if I can advance this, then it's worth whatever loss I have over here. And you have to be able to do that even if this is a moral stance for you. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And I think that people who are truly idealistic in their thinking, and truly are taking things from a purely moral standpoint, have a really difficult time with that. And I suspect that Tulsi probably got to the point where she just said, I can't do I can't do this game anymore. However, I don't know if you saw this, but Robert Kennedy Jr. announced that he was running on the Democrat side.
Yeah.
That actually gives me hope. There's a decent candidate out there.
Well, on that point, I want you to wipe out everything we have.
Okay.
And you get to start from scratch.
Okay.
Tell me the best Democrat candidate and the best Republican candidate. So you can pick whoever is there, but I'm just saying.
You mean not?
I'm saying it. You're
not currently running.
No. What I'm saying is names that aren't in the hat. You can pick them, or you can pick who's there, because you're going to get Biden and Trump, or Biden and DeSantis, or Biden, DeSantis, and Trump. Somehow, some way, I think we're going to see three people going at it on a stage, because it makes for great television and great ratings if you do it. Okay?
I think Manchin from West Virginia is probably the only true middle of the road. Well, Sinema might be also. But Arizona, but Manchin from West Virginia, I think would be a good candidate on the Democratic ticket. I would
as president or vice president,
either one.
Okay.
I think because I think that what's been evidenced by what you is that he's not swayed strictly by party affiliation, but more by conscience,
right,
or at least constituency, right? So I think from what I've seen from him that I think he would be a good candidate. I'd have to see more on the Democratic side. On the Republican side, it's a little bit harder. Just because, I think maybe the governor of South Dakota, what's her name? Kristi Noem. I think that she might be a good candidate. I'd want to hear more from her. She seems to me to be more centrist than right. For me, the most important issue in this next election is I'd really like to see somebody who's an anti-war candidate get elected. I'm just not sure that's a possibility.
Who would that be?
I'm just not sure. That's what I was saying. I'm not sure.
I find it funny that there are you would want that. And
right.
I think we've wanted that since the 50s, and we can't find one person.
I think that most Americans, even though the populist or the popular thing seems to be support for Ukraine, I think that most Americans, if you're talking about the middle 60%, I think that most of those folks would just as soon see us not fighting wars all over the world and kind of spending some of that money on infrastructure and things like that.
What a waste. We're very pro-Russia on this show. Oh, wait, wrong show.
No.
On the other show, we're very pro-Russia.
I'm not saying I'm pro-Russia. I'm saying I don't.
I know you're not, but I'm
not
implying.
I'm
implying.
I'm not a fan of war.
You know what, Stan? War. What is it good for? That's all for this week. You've been listening to Objections.
Absolutely nothing.
That's right.
Say it
you next
again.
week.